here at the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, New Mexico, where we found Don Schmidt, who is selling his book, Witness to Roswell, and he has agreed to talk to us a little bit about it. So just tell us a little bit about your book.
Hi, Jack. Well, I started out, I was a special investigator for the late Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was consultant to the Air Force Project Blue Book. And I was then appointed his director of special investigations. I served on his board of directors for 10 years, and I was a skeptic. They always brought me in to investigate the cases they couldn't solve, because 95% of the time I did. It was those remaining 5% that really stand as good hardcore cases. But Roswell was one of those cases that, again, I was very confident that we could come down here in a single weekend and explain this away as just a weather balloon or something just as conventional. And here it is now, 7 books later, over 30 documentaries, a major motion picture, and lecturing all over the world, but mainly having interviewed over 600 people directly or indirectly involved. And when I'm asked, do I believe, I say no. I'm 99% convinced, because I can't believe that for the wealth of testimony, including more and more deathbed confessions, that all these people could be lying about this one single event. They're all describing something of an unearthly origin, something that crashed north of Roswell in July of 1947 that still defies conventional explanation.
That's really cool. So you're not a true believer, you're just pretty convinced, like pretty sure that they're...
When you say you're 99% sure, that's as close as you can get. But it's also one of the reasons it's still an ongoing investigation. In other words, the investigation itself still remains very fluid. We've had 3 planning on our 4th archaeological dig to the debris/crash site. So we continue to look for the physical evidence, the Holy Grail as we call it.
Yeah.
Because the witnesses all describe the unusual characteristics of the material.
Okay, what are some of the characteristics?
Well, one of the predominant features was this practically weightless, paper-thin material that they couldn't burn, they couldn't cut through, and suddenly torch couldn't cut through. They described where they took a 16-pound sledgehammer and would pound on this paper-thin sheet of material, and it wouldn't even scratch the surface. There were I-beam sections, as thin as a pencil, with unusual symbology, hieroglyphic-like symbols that ran the legs of these materials. And there were silken strands of material, like microfilament fishing line. And witnesses described how you could hold a lighter up to one end, and the light would emit out the opposing end. Well, that's fiber optics in 1947. And yet, we wouldn't develop fiber optics until around 1970. So, what we consider, though, our Holy Grail, the most amazing description of witnesses, is the memory material. This material, again, paper thin, that they could inflict no damage to. It was nearly indestructible. But yet, you could fold it, you could crease it, you could wad it up into a ball, and then you would place it onto a table or onto the floor, and it would smooth out, take on its original shape and size, right before your eyes. So it had perfect memory. Well, we don't even have such material in 2011. So those are the things that made me start to truly reconsider that not only was I wrong in my preconceptions about Roswell, because I just couldn't believe something of this magnitude could be kept a secret for all those years. And then I also discovered, well, it hasn't been a secret, that witnesses have been trying to present the truth since it happened. And it's just that the media It's just that even within their own families, we have story after story of where family members would just laugh it off and, oh dear, or dad, you're just making up stories. And it wouldn't be then until their deathbeds that they would say, now I told you 20 years ago, and I'm telling you now while I still have time, it did happen. It was all true.
That's really cool. Thank you for talking to us.
Oh,
I
it's
hope
my
you guys
pleasure.
find it.
Well, we are going back, and we're going to make every last effort to try to prove this once and for all, because if it is true, as I said, as I'm becoming convinced it was, that it's one of the biggest stories. It is the biggest story in the last 1,000 years.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
My pleasure.